Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission, as always, is to take this stack of, well, frankly, chaotic sources from today, November 11th, 2025, and really distill what matters for you quickly. And today, I mean, if you look at the source material, it's intense. Not just one big story, but maybe four major things hitting at once. We've got this terrible security incident in Delhi, elections ongoing, the pollution crisis, and big corporate shifts, too.
Exactly. It's a real pressure cooker today, and our job is to filter through it all. You know, the Red Fort attack, the Bihar election numbers coming in, these global things like COP30 starting, U.S. trade talks, and show how these dots connect, how the local feeds into the global, and vice versa.
Right. So we need to unpack the technical side of that blast, connect the election results to what happened last time, and look at what these severe pollution rules actually mean on the ground.
Let's do it.
Okay, section one then. Anatomy of a high-impact attack. We know a high-intensity explosion happened Monday evening, peak hours, near the Red Fort, an I-20 car bomb.
Yeah, the immediate aftermath sounds just devastating. Gutted vehicles, chaos everywhere, and you see this immediately in the sources. The numbers are all over the place initially. Some say 9 dead, some 8. One even mentions 13. Dozens injured regardless.
That initial fog of war, basically.
Precisely. And the impact was so severe they've closed the Red Fort itself for 3 days. That tells you something about the scale of this.
And the official response was quick. PM Modi, speaking from Bhutan, had some very strong words, vowing justice, saying the perpetrators will not be spared.
Strong rhetoric, absolutely. But to really grasp the physical power here, we need to look at the explosive itself. The investigation seems pretty clear on this part already.
What are they saying?
It was ammonium nitrate fuel oil, ANFO, plus detonators.
Yeah.
Now, ANFO is, well, technically an industrial explosive. You see it in mining.
Mm-hmm.
But the way it releases energy when detonated, that's the terrifying part.
It's not just like a big fire, is it?
No, not at all. See, a normal fire or burn is subsonic. Slow, relatively speaking. But ANFO, when set off right, the reaction propagates as a supersonic shockwave.
Supersonic.
Faster than the speed of sound. So all that energy gets dumped almost instantly in microseconds. That creates this incredibly destructive shock front. It's designed for maximum impact, maximum fragmentation, very deliberate, very much in line with terror tactics.
And the investigation quickly moved from the what to the who. The alleged attacker, identified as Dr. Muhammad Umar, apparently linked to a terror module in Faridabad.
And this is where it gets, well, deeply unsettling. Because the sources quote his family, completely stunned, saying things like he was a bookworm, our only hope.
Wow. That contrast is stark.
It really is. And it just highlights how incredibly difficult it is for law enforcement. You know, you have someone who seems like one thing to their community, an intellectual maybe, but allegedly involved in what looks like a suicide attack, a Fidean attack, they're calling it.
Meaning prepared to die for the mission.
Exactly. Maximum public terror disruption. That's the goal.
And they've tracked the car, the I-20, haven't they? There's a timeline.
Yeah, pretty detailed. Entered Delhi early, 8:04 a.m., drove around seemingly all day, left a parking area near Suneri Masjid at 6:22 p.m., and then the blast was just half an hour later, around 6:52 p.m. Suggests hours of planning, maybe surveillance.
And the intelligence picture is pointing beyond just one person.
Seems so. Preliminary links are being made to that huge explosives bust earlier this year. Remember the 2,900 kilos found in Faridabad?
Right, I remember that.
And potentially, even more worrying, possible connections back to the Pulwama attack and even a specific women's wing of a Pakistan-based terror group. They mentioned a name, Sadia Azhar. If those links hold up, well, it suggests a much deeper, more resilient network.
Okay, so a major security focus there. But like you said, other things are happening concurrently. Let's shift to section 2, politics and economics. Bihar elections are underway.
Yes, Phase 2 voting happening right now. The latest figures we have show turnout was about 31.38% by 11 a.m., and it climbed to 48% by 1 p.m. Pretty decent numbers, actually, considering everything else going on.
Now, for listeners maybe not following state politics super closely, why are these specific areas voting today, Magadh, Shimparan, Seemanchal, why are they so important?
Oh, they're absolutely critical, especially Seemanchal. It's often called the decider region.
Why is that?
It has a large minority population, and historically the vote there can be quite fragmented, very competitive. So even small shifts in who turns out or who they vote for can completely swing the state's overall result.
And looking back helps understand the stakes now.
Definitely. In the 2020 election, these very seats were key. The NDA, the ruling coalition, won 66 of the 122 seats voting in this phase today. The opposition NDA bloc got 49.
So a significant margin there.
It was. So if the NDA bloc manages to gain even, say, 5 or 10 seats back in this phase, it really changes the math, not just for Bihar, but potentially sends ripples nationally. That 48% turnout figure, every analyst is crunching it against 2020 right now.
Okay, understood. Now let's pivot from local Indian politics to global economics, U.S.-India trade talks. President Trump made some comments.
He did. Said discussions were pretty close to a deal. Something good for everybody was the phrase used, aiming to bring down tariffs.
Which have been a sore point for a while.
Absolutely. So the promise is reciprocity. The U.S. brings down tariffs on Indian goods. India presumably does the same. Trump sounded optimistic, even saying, they'll love us again, referring to India. It's a very public push to smooth things over economically.
But with this administration, trade often gets linked to domestic politics, right? This idea of a tariff dividend.
Exactly. Lower tariffs on imports are being pitched alongside this proposed $2,000 tariff dividend, basically a payment to U.S. households, supposedly funded by tariffs collected previously.
Okay, so what's the debate there? Sounds appealing. $2,000 back.
Well, the immediate questions are, one, the cost. That's a huge chunk of change from the U.S. Treasury. And two, the economic impact. Does it actually help consumers more than just lowering tariffs would? Or does it just inject cash into the economy and potentially fuel inflation?
So lower tariffs might make goods cheaper.
Right, potentially deflationary.
But then handing out cash could push prices back up.
That's the worry. It's this balancing act. So the trade deal itself becomes politically loaded, both in the U.S. and potentially in how India reacts to the overall package. It's complex.
Speaking of things immediately impacting daily life, Section 3, environment. Delhi's air quality. It's bad again.
Yeah, really bad. The AQI, the Air Quality Index, is back over 400. That puts Delhi NCR firmly in the severe category again, and that automatically triggers GRAP 3.
GRAP 3, remind us what that means on the ground.
Okay, GRAP stands for Graded Response Action Plan. Stage 3 is serious. It means immediate bans on non-essential construction work. Restrictions kick in on certain types of vehicles, older diesel cars, for example.
Or schools?
And, significantly, hybrid classes become mandatory for younger kids, up to Class 5. So part-time in school, part-time remote learning. Huge disruption for families and schools, even if it's meant to protect kids' health.
It's such a stark local crisis happening just as the world gathers for COP30.
The timing really hammers it home. COP30 just opened in Belém, Brazil,
Right.
the Amazon, a very symbolic location choice. And the message from leaders there is urgent. We need faster climate action, we need to turn promises into actual projects, and crucially, we need more money climate finance flowing.
And the warnings about inaction are getting pretty dire.
They are. The UN put out a projection linked to this, saying that refugee camps globally could become literally uninhabitable by 2050.
Uninhabitable, why?
Primarily due to worsening extreme weather heat, floods, storms. It highlights that climate change isn't just environmental, it's rapidly becoming a massive humanitarian crisis, potentially displacing millions more people.
Wow. Okay, a completely different kind of shock now, a legal one, the Nathari acquittal. This seems to have really stunned people.
It's, a truly stunning outcome. Surendra Kohli, the main accused in those horrific Nathari serial killings from years ago, the Supreme Court has now acquitted him in the final case against him, the 13th one. He'd already been acquitted in the other 12.
So after all these years, all these trials for these incredibly gruesome crimes, what happens now?
The legal process has run its course, and across all cases, the prosecution ultimately failed to meet the burden of proof required for conviction, according to the courts. The immediate consequence. The Supreme Court has ordered his immediate release.
That's, profound implication.
Absolutely. It raises huge questions about the investigation, the evidence gathering, how these complex, long-running cases are handled by the justice system. A really difficult moment.
Okay, let's move into our final section, Section 4, some interesting corporate shifts and, thankfully, some more positive human stories. 2 big tech departures caught my eye.
Yes, both quite significant. First, Sachin Katti, an IIT Bombay alum who was Intel's head of AI. He's quit after just 6 months in the role.
6 months? Where's it going?
OpenAI. That's a huge move, leaving a giant like Intel for the arguably leading force in generative AI right now. It says a lot about where top AI talent wants to be.
Feels like a brain drain from the established players.
It certainly looks that way. Suggests the pace or focus at OpenAI is more attractive. And then also, Sid Nawasti, who was leading the Cybertruck project at Tesla, he's out too.
The Cybertruck Chief, that's a high-profile role.
Very. He oversaw production ramp-up, getting over 46,000 of them built between late 23 and early 24. Losing the lead on such a flagship and frankly controversial product is definitely a significant shift for Tesla internally.
Okay, shifting from tech leaders to corporate governance in India,
Yeah.
something's happening with the Tata Trusts.
This could be quite seismic, actually. There's a new rule from the Maharashtra government that basically limits lifetime appointments for trustees. Perpetual trustees, people who might have held positions for decades, will now have to be in the minority on trust boards.
Why is that such a big deal for Tata Trusts specifically?
Well, the Tata Trusts have historically relied heavily on that continuity, that long-term vision, provided by figures like, Ratan Tata himself, who held such positions. Their influence has been immense.
So this forces a change in structure.
It forces a fundamental restructuring, yes. It potentially dilutes the influence of those long-standing figures and changes how the trusts, which control huge charitable activities and corporate shareholdings, are governed. It's really a challenge to their traditional model.
Fascinating. Okay, let's end on some much-needed brighter notes. Human triumphs. First, this Guinness World Record for Palak Muchal.
Yeah, this is wonderful. The Bollywood singer Palak Muchal, she's been honored for raising funds to help over 800 underprivileged children get heart surgeries.
3,800. That's incredible.
Wow. Just amazing. Direct, life-changing impact on a huge scale. Real inspiration there.
Then one more. Smaller scale, but just as touching.
This one really resonated. A tea seller in Bengal saved up coins for 4 years, apparently mostly in a big drum, just so he could buy his daughter the scooter she'd always dreamed of.
Oh, that's lovely. 4 years of saving coin.
Yeah, just speaks volumes about dedication, aspiration, parental love, a nice counterpoint to some of the heavier news.
Absolutely. What a range we've covered. I mean, from the chemistry of ANFO explosives and terror networks to election turnouts in Bihar, JAP-3 rules, COP30 starting, it's security, politics, environment, all hitting at once.
And you see the connections everywhere, don't you? The Red Fort attack triggers an immediate governance response. The local pollution crisis in Delhi directly mirrors the global urgency at COP30. U.S. trade policy debates impact households. And even corporate governance rules for the Tata Trust reflect bigger questions about power and structure. It's all interwoven.
So, as you, our listener, process all this, maybe think about that contradiction we started with. Dr. Muhammad Umar, the alleged bomber, described by his family as a bookworm, their only hope. We saw echoes of that gap between surface perception and a hidden reality elsewhere too, didn't we? The Nithari acquittal, the star AI chief suddenly jumping ship.
Exactly. So maybe the final thought to leave you with is this. In this age of constant information where we try so hard to profile things, to predict what's next, what does this recurring gap between the public face and the sometimes seismic hidden reality actually tell us? How good are we really at spotting complex threats, whether they're human or environmental or even technological, before they explode?
Something to definitely mull over. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.